explained you what we have covered so far. So now we are coming to the another ingredient of vicarious liability, and this one is talking about the aspect of the relationship between employer and employee, and where we will look into the aspect of as to what do we understand by course of employment, and the consent that we are talking about, whether that consent should be express or implied. And third aspect that we'll be discussing in today's lecture is when a person, when a servant or is borrowed by some other person, then what will be the situation in that case. So when we talk about these aspects, when we are talking about the second ingredient, it is something that helps us in deciding whether a person is an employee or a servant of an institute or organization or not, whether this is mainly to decide the liability of the master or employer, as the case may be, right? So when we are talking about second ingredient, we will look into this aspect as to what is course of employment. So for an employer to be held liable, now here the question is about the liability you should understand, and the liability is for the act that has not been committed by you, and you are made answerable for the act of another person. So it is important to decipher this factor, that what do we understand by course of employment, because this aspect of course of employment will decide whether a person will be liable or not for the act of another party. Clear? So when we are talking about course of employment, we say that for an employer to be held liable, the wrong must be committed within the course of employment. Now, what is course of employment? We will understand with the help of case laws. An employer cannot avoid liability if an employee acts in way that could be described as incidental to his employment and the duties to which he is entrusted. So we are saying that any such act which is very important for the performance or for the completion of the work in that particular employment, we say that it is something where we say that it is done in the course of employment. There are few tests that were laid down by John Salmond, and these in his book, and he says that a master is liable even for acts which he has not authorized, provided that they are so connected with acts which he has authorized that they may be rightly regarded as modes, although improper modes of doing them. So these things will become clear to you when we'll take up the case. Okay, so is the first thing that that has been said is that it is not authorized, but it connects to the act that has been authorized. Whether the mode of doing it was proper or not is immaterial. Second, an act will be in the course of employment under the test if it is a wrongful act authorized by the employer, right? Second, a wrongful and unauthorized mode of doing some act authorized by the employer. So it is saying that when we will say that it is in the course of employment, that is, there is an authority, authorization, right? By the employer, some wrongful act is committed, and there is some authority which is given by the employer, and there is some wrongful mode which has been adopted by the employee in order to carry out that authorized act. Now here you need to keep this in mind, that this is immaterial whether the mode that has been there is unauthorized or not, and we will see this. It will become clear to you when we will read the cases. So what is John Salmond saying? He's saying that an act falls within the course of employment when either the master has authorized the same, or it is a wrongful mode of doing some authorized act, right? You are doing what is authorized, or you're doing an authorized act but in a wrongful mode. In both the cases, employer will be liable, will be held liable. So we will see this, like for example, let me give you an example. Like for example, authorizing a servant to drive, right? This is an authorization, but what has servant did what servant did? Servant drove the vehicle negligently, right? So what is it? It is saying that the mode is not correct, but there is authorization. Second, if we say, like for example, we have done in the case like authorizing a servant to deal with the clients, and then what servant did? Servant dealt with the client fraudulently, right? So these are certain things that takes it will decide the liability of the employer, and in such circumstances, in such situations, employer is held liable if there is authorization. In this case, like in Barwick versus English Joint Stock Bank case, it was observed that it may be said that the master has not authorized the act, but he has put the servant in his place to do that class of acts, and he must be answerable for the manner in which the agent has conducted himself in doing the business which it was the act of masters to place him in. That is, you are in the place of the master. You have been been given this position that you can give any kind of take any kind of decision on the part of the master. So what is it been said in such cases? It has been said that yes, the master will be held liable, employee will be held liable for such act which has been done by the employee. Like for example, if we are employee, right, what is it that has been given? We have given this position where we have to teach. Not our employee cannot teach every semester on every subject, so it is something which has been bifurcated. It has been delegated to different teachers for different subjects. So we are answerable. Our employer is answerable on part of on our part. So this is what the relationship is. Another case that is there is Century Insurance versus Northern Ireland Transport Board Company. Now, this is a case where a tanker driver who, while delivering petrol, what he did, he lit a cigarette, okay, and carelessly discarded the match that caused fire uh, because he was driving a petrol vehicle, right? So what happened? There was this fire that was caused. In this case, it was held to be by the court that the person was acting within the course of his employment. It was said that the act of lighting the cigar, while not which is not itself is connected to the job, could not be looked into isolation. We cannot say that it is in isolation. He was carrying that particular vehicle that was having the petrol in it, and lighting the cigar is something that he was doing within the course of that employment, right? So in this case, what was held by the court said that it was observed that although the act of lighting a cigar was done by the driver for his comfort and was an act both innocent and harmless by itself, the careless act was done in the course of the driver employment and was a negligent mode of conducting the work. This is what was said by the court in this case, and therefore in this case master were employer were held liable for the damages that were caused, because it was said that it is been done, the act is done in the course of employment. Another case is this Limpus versus London General Omnibus case. Now, this is a case where a bus driver racing to stop to collect passengers. Now, this is a case that we'll do in the later class also. Passenger deliberately obstructed the driver of a bus of a rival company, overturning the later vehicle. The bus driver had been given instructions against obstructing other buses. Okay, so there were these instructions that were given. The defendant were held liable in this case. So there was some authorization. Now the authorization was illegal. You need to keep this in mind, that what is the authorization that was given by the employer in this case, or by the master in this case, that you can obstruct in order to cross that particular bus. Why? Because what was associated, like more passengers, more profit. So these were the standing instructions that were given. So when there is some authorization, there is some the mode that you are the mode in which you are executing is not something which is acceptable, but you have the authorization from your master. In that case, the employer or the master will be held liable for such acts that have been committed by the employee. Now here we need to understand this aspect of frolics that has been given. Now there are certain situations where the employer is not liable, where the employee's act is wholly unconnected to the job for which they are employed. In such situation, the employee is said to be on the frolic of his duty, means he has detoured the particular directions that were given by the employer, or was not acting within the course of employment. He has deviated from what the instructions were. So this is the situation where the employer, we can say the employer is not reliable, because employee has acted in a manner which was wholly unconnected to the job. right? So this is one situation which is there. So it says that an employee will only avoid liability in this situation it can if it can be shown that an employee acted on a frolic of his own, or in other words, if the employee acted in a way that was unconnected with his employment. It was no way connected with the employment, and it is the only situation where the employer can skip the liability of where he can be held vicariously liable for the act of another person. Like for example, where the servant is sent to the market to purchase some good, but there was a defamatory statement that was made by the servant to the shopkeeper, right? So this is something where the employer can skip the liability of this kind of statement, defamatory statement that being made by the servant. So because it is unconnected with uh, with the job that was entrusted by the master to the servant. Now we will look into these cases, that is Bear versus London General Omnibus case, company case, wherein the employer of a bus conductor who in the absence of the driver, okay, negligently drove the bus himself, and in this case the employer was not held liable. So what happened, the employer was not held liable because there was a conductor who drove the vehicle in the absence of the driver, and therefore it was held that the employer is not liable. So the case was that at the end of a journey, the conductor of an omnibus belonging to the defendant, in the absence of the driver and apparently for the purpose of turning the omnibus in the right direction for the next journey, drove it through some by street at a considerable pace, and while so doing negligently ran into and injured the plaintiff. Okay, so this is a case where the court has held that in this case it was proved that the de facto driver was not the person authorized. Okay, so the person who was driving was not authorized to drive, but a person authorized and employed to act as a conductor. In such a case, the onus of showing some special authority given to the conductor lies on the plaintiff. Plaintiff will have to show that the conductor was given the authority to drive the vehicle. No such authority was shown, and therefore master was not held liable in this case. Okay, now another thing that is that courts take into consideration is what is outside the course of employment. Now this is very important because if any act is done outside the course of employment, definitely employer or master will not be held liable, will not be held vicariously liable for the act of the employee. And this is something that depends upon proving or disproving the facts, that whether the person was acting within the course of employment or not, or whether it was outside the course of employment. So, doing an act which is altogether different from the purpose for which the servant has been engaged is outside the course of employment. This is the key point, that you are not performing that function that has been entrusted to you. And if the same is also prohibited, the master will not be liable. In such case, where the driver takes his own family in the master's vehicle for picnic, it is outside the course of employment, right? Like for example, if let's say I have given my car to my driver on this condition that next day you will be coming early on the duty, so that you can come early. But what happened, I instead of taking the when I took my vehicle, what I did, I took my family out for a picnic, and I met with an accident and I caused losses to some other party. So my employer will not be liable in that case. Is it clear? So this is one thing with an act which is not authorized, an act which is I am not authorized, which is not within the course of employment. Now here we will see, this is the case which is there, State of Maharashtra versus Kanchan Mala case, where it was held by the court that if the unauthorized and wrongful act of the servant is not so connected with the authorized act as to be a mode of doing it, but is an independent act, the master is not responsible. For in such a case, the servant is not acting in the course of employment, but has gone outside of it. Is it clear? So it has been stated that where any course of employment is there and it is outside the course. Like I've given you an illustration where a master allows B, like if I'm a servant, to take the car. And another example, like for example on this we can take another example where the person instead of bringing back the car to the job, to the person has given the car on hire to some other person, to third person. Let's say C, and this person C met with an accident, caused losses and to the parties, some other party. So this is something which is outside the course of employment. This is not something authorized. So in this case, master cannot be held liable as he has only authorized his servant to take the car and to return to the job early, right, and not to give it on hire or to give it to some other third party. This is one thing that was stated by the court in this case. Another case is General Engineering versus Kingston Corporation case. Now, this is a case where firemen were operating on go slow policy. Okay, and these firemen took 5 minutes longer than the normal time that they would have taken to arrive at the scene of fire where the fire took place, and therefore it was held that they were not acting within the course of employment. Why? Here the Privy Council indicated that it was as though they had simply ignored the call, which would be which like not performing their duties properly. So they have ignored, because what are the standing instructions to the firemen is that they should reach the place where the fire broke out as soon as possible. Okay, so this is however a case which founds itself firmly on the Salmon's test and holds that a wrongful and unauthorized act is outside the course of employment. So it is not somewhere where the fire authorities have given the instruction to them to go slow, but the instructions were to be as fast as possible and to reach the spot as soon as possible. So here the appellant or that were there could bring an action against the but failed to bring an action against the authorities because it was said that it is outside the course of employment, right? So the Privy Council observed the firemen unauthorized and wrongful act was to prolong the time taken by the journey to the scene of the fire, as to ensure that they did not arrive in time to extinguish it before the building and its contents were destroyed. So why they were going go slow is a mode of you can say it is a type of an industrial strike that is taken up by the workmen. Okay, so they were resorted to this go slow strike, you can say, and therefore because of which it was held that they were not able to reach the spot, the place where the fire broke out on time, right? So here it was held that it was the outside the course of employment. The act that was committed by firemen was outside the course of employment, right? Now next is this case that is Sitaraman versus Santanu Prasad. Now here it is the case where the owner has entrusted his car to driver for plying it as a taxi. The driver lent the taxi to cleaner for taking it to the person R, right? And what happened? RTOs, that is Office of Driving Test. The accident happened when the cleaner was driving while giving the driving test. Now the driver was then not in the vehicle. The driver who was employed by the defendant in this case, right? And it is clear from the fact that at the time the accident happened, the car was not being used as taxi. Okay, for the owner's business. The car was then engaged in the work of cleaner, which had no connection whatsoever with the owner's business. The driver, in lending the car to the cleaner for taking a driving test, did an act which he was not employed to perform, and thus clearly acted beyond the scope of his employment, which was to drive the car as taxi. So these are two important points on which the court held that the owner is not liable. Clear? So these 2 points that are there, on this basis, court has said that it was not authorized. It was outside the course of employment. What was authorized by the employer is what should be taken into consideration to decide whether it is in the course of employment or not. Now, another aspect that is there is the what is the effect of prohibition. Okay, now in this case, there are further complications where the employee is doing some things which is especially forbidden by the employer. The outcome is then said to depend on whether the prohibition limited the spheres of employment or not. In which case, the employee is not in the course of employment, right? Or has that prohibition limited the manner in which the employee carried out duties? That is, in which case the employee is still in the course of employment. So there are two situations. So sometimes it becomes very difficult to decide as to what exactly the situation is. So what it is stating, it is saying that the outcome, whatever the outcome is, it depends on whether the prohibition has limited the sphere of employment or limited the manner in which the employee carried out duty. These are two things that are taken into consideration. Because at the later case, where it has limited the manner in which employee can carry out the duty, it is believed that it is the employee is still in the course of employment. So an act may be within the course of employment, even though it has been expressly forbidden by the employer, right? And an act may be within the course of employment, even though it has been expressly not authorized by the employer. So what it is saying, it is talking about that if a servant violates a prohibition of the first category, his act will be outside the course of employment and the master will not be vicariously liable. But if the violation of the servant is only of a prohibition of the second category, the servant act will still be in the course of employment, making the master liable. Now, this is where we discussed this case, Limson versus London Journal Omnibus, if you remember, right? Now, where the case was where the authorization was given, right, to not to obstruct to drive the car fast but not to obstruct the business of was not to race with or obstruct the buses of rival companies. So he disobeyed this instruction and caused an accident in which the plaintiff horses were injured. Despite the prohibition, the employee were held liable since this was simply an improper method adopted by the employee in performing their duty. In another case, in Rose versus Plenty, the employee was held liable when, despite his employer express instruction not to do so, a milkman employed a boy aged 13 to help him on his milk round due mainly to the milkman negligent driving. The boy was injured. In Court of Appeal, Lord Denning said the driver was still within the course of employment despite the express prohibition because he was still acting for the master's purpose, business, and benefits. Now, here one need to understand that when we are talking about this prohibition aspect of prohibition, even in certain these cases, employee can be held liable for the act of the employee if the employee is working within the course of employment, right? Whether the act that has been committed by the employee is in the extended form or not is what is to be taken into consideration. So this is another aspect that need to be taken into consideration, whether an act is in the course of employment or not, whether a person is acting in the course of employment or not, whether it is authorized or not, if it is, even if it is prohibited, but still it is done in the course of employment, employee will be held liable. Now, the last ingredient that is there is the express and implied consent. Now, this is of irrelevance whether the consent was implied or it was expressed. If the whatever mode of consent is, whether the consent is expressed or implied, in both the cases, employer can be held vicariously liable for the act of the uh, employee or a workman or a servant, right? So whether it is express or employed, if a person is acting in the course of employment, we can bring an action of vicarious liability for employer. This is was the third point that is there under the aspect of the relationship between master and servant or employer and employee, what you can say. Now, the last aspect of the lecture today is where master lends the service of his servant to another person, right? Now, where whether the permanent, the question is whether permanent master is liable or the person making a temporary use of the servant services will be liable. Who will be liable in such cases? So, in such cases, there is a problem with borrowed employees where one company supplies the employees and other are using those services. So here, like for example, this is a case where that we will take up. Like for example, and normally takes up in the case like for example, one company supplies a crane and it's a driver to work for another company. Is it the company who shall be liable or it will be the person to whom it has been hired will be liable, will be the question. So the presumption seems to be that the driver remains an employee of the lending company unless this is clearly displayed on fact that the person who hired had the control over the person who has been hired. So this is one of the case, Mercy versus Coggins. Now this is a case where a mobile crane and a driver had been hired out by a firm under a contract, which stipulated that the driver was to be the employee of the defendants, in this case the one who hired the crane. So in spite of this term, the employee's original employer, that is the harbor board in this case, paid his wages and retained the rights to dismiss him. So the hirer, the company that hired it, directed the task which were to be performed. So what happened? The company has kept the right to pay the wages and to dismiss him, right? And second, the company that hired, right, directed the task which were to be performed by the driver, but they have not directed that how he was to operate the crane, right? So in the course of his work, what driver did was negligently injured the plaintiff, and therefore the question was taken up, was whether the firm that has hired or the one that has taken were vicariously liable. Who will be vicariously liable, right? So in holding the harbor board liable, the House of Lord said that the control test was still applicable. That is, the company to whom they belong, they still retained that right of paying them and dismissing them, right? They noted that the factors such as what will be the type of machine, and that has to be given, and the factor who pay the employee, what are the other condition, durations, dismissal policies, right, are all the relevant factor that need to be taken into consideration. So therefore this is a case where the court said that there can be a dual vicarious liability, right? There can be a dual liability upon two people, both the person who is giving on hire and taking on hire, letting or taking, right? The person who is like borrowing the servant from the another person, both can be held liable. So in certain cases, it can be said that both the parties are held vicariously liable, and this was something that was taken up by the court in this case, and where the Court of Appeal held that in Turnbull transfer case, where the Court of Appeal held that it is possible for two separate employers to be vicariously liable for the tort of a single employee, but it depends upon the facts of the case, that to what extent is there a control test, is there a hire and fire test, integration test. So court take into consideration all these factors before deciding whether a party will be liable for the act or not, right? Of the another party, or who will be liable in the case the servants have been borrowed, whether both will be liable or one party will be liable. So this was about vicarious liability that we have taken up. That's all for the day, and thank you very much for the patient listening and hearing. Have a nice day.